Hi, friend. Welcome here to Righteous Practice. I woke up this morning and saw that our United States has attacked the country of Iran and has destroyed, for the most part, the space where their nuclear power, as far as the enrichment of uranium, was hit quite severely. I haven't looked at the news to see all the specifics of what happened. But what has happened is that President Trump has broken his main promise when he accepted the nomination to be president again last November in 2024. And he promised to be a president that would not start new wars, but would end them. Well, he's broken his promise in this area. And we're still over in Ukraine. When he was campaigning, he said that he would walk out of that Ukraine war, and he's still meddling in that war. He's still in the middle of it. I understand that the United States talked Ukraine into being its proxy, and I find that the Ukrainian president, I have quite a bit of guile for him. And so far, the presidency of President Trump, the second go around, at least today, has left a sour taste in my mouth. I want us to go back and look at the kings in our Bible, to look at what God expects out of his leaders. So when we left, I talked the last couple of videos about King Saul and his sin, his idolatry was that of people pleasing. And I've commented that President Trump has also fallen into that sin of people pleasing when it comes to what is going on with the wars in Ukraine and how we have Iran. And one would say that, Israel was attacked, and we have this Hamas group that is supported by the country of Iran. And one of the things that has to be acknowledged is that when Israel was attacked on October 7th, 2023, one of the things that was happening at this wonderful festival was there was a Buddha shrine held above for all to worship. This is evil in the sight of the Lord. So how do we reconcile God correcting Israel with also needing to make sure that we're on the side of the Israeli people, the Israelites, God's chosen people? I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I assume that you are too. But if you are not, still, let's come and have some conversation about what's going on. I'm in my Bible, so here in 1 Samuel chapter 15, as you remember from the last time we were here, King Saul was in constant warfare, and he had done battle with the people of Moab, Ammon. He has gone to war with the Edomite kings and also the kings of Zobah. And God himself ordered Saul to take on the Amalekites. And listen to my words, listen to God's words. Saul had the order that he was to kill every man, woman, child, infant, every piece of livestock, anything that was alive amongst the Amalekites, King Saul was to utterly destroy. And then we see, as we go into 1 Samuel 15, that Saul, instead of obeying the Lord entirely, he takes the Amalekite king, King Agag, and he even takes some of the choicest pieces of livestock, and he takes them back as booty. So Saul has blatantly disobeyed the Lord, and he has saved sinful man and sinful animal to take as gods, to take as worship. And he gives this terrible excuse that he brought back this livestock and this King Agag because he wanted to have a grand sacrifice to the Lord. Saul, while he is king, does not have the permission to provide sacrifices to the Lord. That's Samuel's job. Samuel is the high priest. Samuel is the one that God sent to anoint King Saul. And so what happens here in verse 18 of 1 Samuel 15, it says, "And the Lord sent you, Saul, on a mission and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are exterminated. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but rushed upon the spoil and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord?" And the reason I take issue with this war that President Trump has entered us into with Iran because of Israel is because the sin will not utterly be obliterated. What the United States wants to do, what President Trump wants to do, is still put in a ruler, a king, who doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, who still does not acknowledge that there is one God and he gave his only son. And we are to worship that one and only son. So I am not at all at ease with what has happened. I am most disappointed. And so what happens now that King Saul has disobeyed the Lord? Well, Samuel is ordered by God to anoint a new king. In chapter 16 of 1 Samuel, it says, verse 12, "Now he, David, was ruddy with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. And the Lord said, Arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward." In verse 14 it says, "Now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord terrorized him. Saul's servants then said to him, Behold, now an evil spirit from God is terrorizing you." Can an evil spirit from the Lord be terrorizing our President Trump? It is worth questioning. It is worth investigating. Please pray for our president. He has fallen into this idolatry of people pleasing. And he speaks without discernment of what he's saying. He has gone after a country, a ruler in Iran, and the United States has gone after many rulers in many countries, demanding that they do ungodly things for the sake of bowing down to the United States. Every ruler is required by God to provide their people with the food that they need, with the defense that they need. That means armies, navies, air forces, nuclear weapons. Every ruler is required to lead their people to Jesus Christ, God. And many rulers have done some of that, done none of that. But every ruler is required to protect their people. So when I see our United States demanding that any country not defend their people, I take issue with that. That's not biblical. That's not us minding our own business. How have we gone and made sure to protect our people? I certainly am grateful that I have President Trump, who has, sent out illegal immigrants. I am certainly blessed that President Trump acknowledges that there are men and there are women. He understands that God made us in his image, both male and female. And there's nothing that any of us can do with surgeries, medicine, that is going to change that reality, that truth. Now, while King David has been anointed, he is still to serve Saul. So I have nominated President Trump. I am still to serve my president. And what happens is that Saul becomes quite afraid of David because of the influence that David does possess. And he has his greatest point of fear when David takes it upon himself to make sure to be a man of war with the soldiers that are submitted to Saul's authority. Yes, David has been anointed king, but he is not in authority right now. Right now, God is testing David to see, will you be true to me, David? Therefore, you will be true to Saul. And so David does go and battle with Goliath. Goliath has been put up by the Philistine king, the army, to go and command that if anyone can take on Goliath of Gath, that the Philistines will serve the Israelites. But if their man cannot take down Goliath, then the Israelites will serve the Philistines. And David valiantly does go and kill Goliath dead. And so it says here in verse 23 of 1 Samuel 17, as he was talking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine from Gath, named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines, and he spoke these same words, and David heard them. When all the men of Israel saw the man, they fled from him and were greatly afraid. The men of Israel said, have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. And it will be that the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And that is exactly what David did. And David shouted at Goliath. 1 Samuel 17:45. Then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. And it was at that moment that David found greater favor with the Lord, and he also did find favor with Saul temporarily. Here in verse 18, chapter 18 of 1 Samuel, verse 1, it says, now it came about when he had finished speaking to Saul that the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as himself. Saul took him that day and did not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David with his armor, including his sword and his bow and his belt. So David went out wherever Saul sent him and prospered. Saul sent him over the men of war, and it was pleasing in the sight of the people, also in the sight of Saul's servants. And this would cause Saul to turn against David. And when I read this about Jonathan turning over his robe and his sword and his belt to David, this is what I journaled. I'm reading about David killing Goliath, that Jonathan had made a covenant with David. And in this, Jonathan removed his robe, armor, sword, and his belt and gave them to David. Jonathan acknowledged the king in David that made David the coming king to proceed the true coming king. He is our King of Kings. This is Jesus, our God and Lord. And reading this made me happy today instantly. Pray for our President Trump. He has broken one of his main promises that he campaigned on in 2024. And unless he takes out every sinner, this will not be a state of obedience for President Trump, but a further falling into the idolatry of people pleasing. I look forward to seeing you again. I am Belinda DeMuth. Thank you for joining me here at Righteous Practice. Have a great day in the Lord and pray for our president.